yeah, basically this question was just a pretty simple question of tell me about your best friend that you've ever had and what made them such a good friend. And then like what made the connection, the bond between you so deep, because that is different for everyone.
I think I've had quite a few important relationships, important friendships, and still to this day. Can't pinpoint one, but I think there's maybe a common theme within my friendships is similar backgrounds. So maybe my earliest friendship would be my best friend from primary school. So both of us were raised with single parent, both of us were raised in an inner city area, same schools, same circumstances, same financial issues. So I think it was a lot to do with culture, economics, location, why we're still friends, because I think those things are kind of the same now.
We met when we were 7 years old, literally on the playground. I'd moved to a new school, didn't have many friends, and he reached out to me and was like, do you want to be my friend? And the bond was deep because we shared a lot of similar experiences. We came from the same economic background. We had very similar interests. And I think what made the bond and the friendship more solidified is the fact that we did a lot of stuff outside of school together.
The people who I would consider best friends and like bridesmaids and stuff is the fact that it's not every day it's deep. You can just be in the same room and not do anything.
I think lots of friendships are important at various stages in your life. The connection between people who I would identify as like being my best friend or best friends, I think it's just having that relationship where you know that they've got your back regardless, and that there's that sense of loyalty and honesty and love and compassion. I think that genuine love for one another is really, really important, and just that you deeply, deeply care for them and their best interests, and it's vice versa. I think time is a factor of it as well. I think like when you shared experiences, when you go through experiences together, or when you're facing hardships, or even not necessarily hardships, I think sometimes when you're celebrating your highest moments as well, like the people that are around you, the people that you would call friends, should be celebrating with you, and they should be saying like, yeah, you absolutely smashed this and well done, just raising you up whenever possible. And when you're at your lowest, or when you're facing sort of difficult times, that they are there unconditionally.
Okay, so probably one of my best friends at the moment. What makes our friendship so deep or so meaningful, so important to me, is the way that we can relate to each other. And I think that we're quite similar in terms of personality. I think that the fact that we just like get each other on a deep level. Our interests, or like our opinions, our values, our beliefs, like our opinions on different matters, like different political things, just like all that type of stuff, often they align, or often we have the same opinion. And if we don't have the same opinion, we can talk about it and it not be like weird, or it not be like cause controversy. We can be open and honest with each other, which is probably what makes the friendship really good.
I would say I felt like he was always there for me, and there was a period of time when I was getting bullied quite a lot in school, but I didn't really want to say anything. And I think at one point he actually seen it. And came over and kind of just stood up for me, and that's always like stood out to me, because I wasn't confident enough to actually say and actually even know what's happening, because when you're that age, 7, 8, you just think, well, that's the norm. I'll never forget him stepping in and helping me, and then us both getting in trouble.
I suppose when you're with people that, when you have similar interests and you're of a similar outlook on the world and have similar kind of positions on things, all of that stuff sort of goes away, and you just kind of can focus on the similarities rather than the differences. You don't have to worry about identity all the time. Both of our mums are British, and their dads are of Jamaican descent. That probably only really became a talking point once we were already pretty well established friends. You know, it was down the line. We kind of really got close playing basketball. I think sport is like a good way of that way to the kind of just you don't really worry about who's who. You just worry about whether you get on as teammates or whatever, something like that. So yeah, I think from there it's sort of a snowball effect, and you just kind of talk about, you feel comfortable bringing up things, and you might have a similar interest in it. Yeah.
I don't know, we could relate to things together that the other girls wouldn't understand, or for like, so like, or back each other in like debates. I always knew in every situation, regardless of whether it concerned our race or another race, whatever it was, we always had the same outlook, I suppose. That's probably what made us so close.
We've grown up together, we've like shaped who each other is, and we have all the same friends, and like to be friends with someone for so long and through so many life stages, I think really like you kind of have to be friends forever after that, like exactly, especially at the stage where you're like a teenager and growing up and changing so much.
I feel like in secondary school I didn't really have like a group, and talking to Zach, like whenever, we always try and remember when we became friends, and we literally don't remember. And he's just the same as us, man. Likes the same stuff, same sense of humour. That was the big one for me. Same kind of, like, raised the same. His mum, single mum, brothers and half brothers and all that. His mum is mixed race and his dad is white. So he's like aesthetically white as can be. Yeah. And that was a big thing for him and me as well. We didn't talk about it a lot, but people saying, you're not very black, or you don't talk black, stuff like that. And Zach being like looking white and having a mixed race mum, for him was kind of the same thing. If he said to people, oh, my mum's black, or my brother's black, people would be like, what? Right. No, they're not. Surely not. You don't look black. People kind of allocate like a behaviour, or I don't know, the way people speak and the way they dress, things like that, to being black specifically. And me being black and Zach, his family being black mum and all that, they just didn't affiliate that sort of their preconceived kind of idea of how we should speak, how we should act, how we should dress. So that's one thing that I think was a reason why we were such good friends, because we got it, we got each other. A lot of our kind of deep-rooted things that we grew up with were the same.
So when we started off as friends, he was like asking me a lot of questions, or he'd say a lot of things that could be considered insensitive. But I'd always treat it with a pinch of salt, because obviously with his autism it was more about curiosity rather than anything. What probably makes it such a deep connection is he wants to understand on a level that isn't just for his benefit. It's more about for everyone's benefit and more about his rounded understanding of the world. I've spoken to him many times on social issues about how he feels when he's perceived in race, and how he feels just like a, you know, like when everybody gets called like that basic white man, you know, like the straight white male who has, you know, certain views and stuff like that. He's always trying to fight off that rhetoric. And I'm always trying to make him aware that, you know, with him constantly trying to learn and be open about it, and him always trying to support me with things around race, that he's doing all the right things to get there. And he's always very open to learning, and he's been my friend now for about 12 years. And yeah, he's always been there for me, like regardless. I hear him having constant arguments with other members of his family based on their views, people very close to him as well, and I can tell he really takes like actual offence to it, because he knows that it's not even just an opinion anymore. He knows that it's like wrong. It's lovely to have a friend like that, really.
Do you know, I'm quite an intense guy, I'm quite intense, loud, brash, and that was never an issue. That was never a shock. I never had to explain anything. I never had to condone why I said what I did or anything like that. It was always just Chris being Chris, or do you know what I mean? It was always just accepted, and it made me feel, he made me feel more comfortable about a part of my personality that would sometimes scare people away, or, you know, when I was younger, I'm more refined than I was back then.
For the longest time, I had kind of just been this person who was floating around loads of like friendship groups. And then when I got to college, I kind of got around really strong black women, and that for me was very important. One of them helped me to talk about like a lot of like things and issues that were going on that are happening in the black community. The deeper issues that we face as black people, we had really deep conversations in regard to education, finances, our careers, and the struggles we face as black people in trying to find jobs at university as well, those types of struggles. And the second one, it's interesting, just introduced me to a lot of like black music. It affirms my blackness, it affirms my womanhood, it affirmed so much in me, and I feel like those friendships that I formed in my college was very fundamental to my blackness. It's about having friends who can essentially just empathise with you.
They listen, very forgiving, very helpful. And for me, a big thing in friendships is just, I need to know you're there for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't necessarily need to speak all the time. I should be able to pick up the phone and be like, yo, like, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And it shouldn't feel weird or awkward, regardless of the amount of time in between the last time we've spoken or whatever, do you know what I mean? It allows you to grow together, but then also have your individuality. But then I also need to know that you've got my back, do you know what I'm saying? So we'll talk regularly and stuff, but so long as we can both individually exist, but coexist at the same time, for me, that's a perfect balance.
But he's been really supportive of me in my career. He's given me like quite a bit of money in terms of like crowdfunding and stuff in the past. And we'll always, I think we'll always just check on each other. It's like a nice sort of emotionally supportive relationship as well. Because he's a really nice guy. If we're having like family issues or relationship issues, I can speak to him.
Okay.
Because we could relate to each other. There was no judgment. There was no sort of I'm better than you, you're better than me. There was no confusion as to how I responded to something or reacted to something, because she was experiencing the same things. Not necessarily at the same time, but we'd come to grow and learn that we'd experienced the similar situations. So I think that's probably why, because it was just, we were very much the same.
Yeah. Everyone's experience of friendship is different, and everyone's interpretation of what friendship is or what makes a good friend is different. And if you ask someone that, you know, what was the most important friendship you ever had and what made it so deep, what made it such a good connection, that is going to really tell you a lot about that person and their nature and what they like and what they value. So that's why I asked that question, and it was interesting to hear varying answers. A lot of people said it was because they had a similar upbringing that made them close together, or some people said it was because they were different and that helped them learn from each other and they got to know each other because of their differences, and that helped them become friends. Others, it was about that they were able to treat each other equally and there was no like hierarchy in their relationship, and that was important to them. So it's really varied. What I did learn was if you have a similar background to someone, then you might be able to understand them better. That might help you become better friends. So if you're someone you had a really different, drastically different upbringing, say if you're really rich and you're mates with someone who's really not very rich, then they're gonna be stuff that annoys you about this rich friend. You know, your rich friend's gonna be like, oh yeah, my mum does everything for me, and you'll be like, oh, well, I've been making my own dinner since I was 6 years old, and that's gonna be like a barrier. It might become like a clash in the friendship. So yeah, I guess it was interesting hearing that on paper, just people saying, because we had the same upbringing, it allowed us to be closer and we understood each other better. Yeah, at this point, I wasn't asking him about race at all. I was just asking him purely about friendship, just to see where they took it. And some of them, they did take it to their race, and they said, yeah, I was friends with the only other black person in my class. You know, we grew up together, and this was a big part of their relationship, was that they had this similar experience. But for a lot of people, they just told me about their best friend that they've ever had, and it wasn't really about race at all. What I was really trying to focus on was the positive stuff, like what really helps you become a good friend to someone, or what helps someone gain your trust. But it just happens to be that a lot of them, their best friends were of the same ethnicity as them.